In today's video, I'm going to talk about one of the rarest fountain pens that I own. This is actually a limited edition Onoto Winston Churchill edition, and there's only 1,874 of these pens that were ever made. I've had this for a few years, and I did put it back in the box to kind of go through the unboxing of what this would have looked like if you were buying it new today. So let's take a look at what's all inside this special edition Onoto pen. Okay, so here we have the outer box. This is the Churchill Victory Pinstripe Edition Onoto, and I got this, I think, in 2014 or 2015 from Vaness Pen Shop. It was I think my second time I ever went to the store in Memphis. I was just drawn to this pen. It had a look that I was like, I went back and forth. Now with this being a special edition, there are a lot of unique paperwork and booklets and things like that included in here. So this is just a general book talking about Churchill's life. You know, it is approved by the Churchill Heritage Foundation. So this was actually published for this book, was in 2011. So this just kind of has a talk through of, you know, Churchill, kind of his history. It has historical events and dates and some pictures. So pretty neat to kind of, if you're someone who likes history or, you know, you have an interest in history, little tidbits like this are nice just to kind of be able to flip through. And, you know, Churchill was known as a great orator and a prominent writer. He actually served as a writer during his time as a soldier. So that's unique. So it has a little styrofoam plastic, and I've had this pen out. I did put it back in the box just so to show the full unboxing experience. So I just want to make sure that, you know, I'm being correct in how I'm presenting that. But here is the box, and I apologize for the overhead light. It does give that circle, but I want to be able to have this well lit. So when you open it up, the first thing you see is just the pen sitting in there. Now this is black and kind of a blue pearlescent pinstripe. Churchill was known for wearing pinstripe suits. It does have a sterling silver finial, sterling silver clip, trim ring, and, you know, the number of the limited edition. So this is actually pen number 212 of the 1,874 made. So this is a numbered limited edition. It's got an unscrew cap. And this is a Onoto number 7 fine 18 karat nib. Onoto does do their own nibs in-house. Let me see if I can get that up and keep it somewhat focused. So it is a dual tone nib. And like I mentioned in my intro, I use this every so often, but it's a little bit too broad even with it being a fine nib. So I'm actually going to get this ground down a little bit. I know with a special edition, but I want to use my pens. I don't plan on selling it. I like the look. I like the history. So I believe at the Arkansas Pen Show in March of 25, I think Mark Bacchus is going to be there, and I'm going to see if I can get that ground down to a little bit more of an extra fine. I don't want it crazy smaller, but just a little bit more where I can use it on a regular basis. But, you know, the pen in the box, the presentation on this is just wonderful. This little felt tray comes out. And in here, like I mentioned, all the extra goodies of paperwork and things like that. This does come with a pen cleaning polishing cloth that's actually still in this. And it came with 2 cartridges, which, as you can tell, they've been in this box since I opened it in 2014. And I do believe this was at least probably 15 that I got it, because in the certificate of authenticity on the top there, you can see this was signed September 12th of 2014 with the number 212 of 1874 from Onoto. Let me go through some of this here. Like I said, that's the cleaning cloth. These are just some little, almost like a bookmark. It's the Onoto blotter. This is issued to accompany the official Winston Churchill range of pins from Onoto. Now, Onoto was a pin that Churchill used. He has a famous quote of, "Get me another Onoto pin," or something along those lines. I'll have to see if I can find the exact quote and throw it up on the screen. But, it's nice to have those in there that showing that it is official. This is just a little how to care for your Onoto pin, kind of generic pamphlet, nibs, inks, filling, general care. So if someone was new, they talk about how they have personalized pins and whatnot. So that's just normal Onoto branding, nothing Churchill specific there. This is the hallmarks of an Onoto pin. It has the maker's mark, the date letter, how to read when it was made, where it was made, at which facility, and things like that. So that's pretty neat. To track, you can look at the markings on your pin and learn what it is. And then this is just a little history of Onoto book. Talks about, them being a British company, their history, some of their famous models that they've done, post-war production after they started making pins again after World War II, and some of those type of things. So once again, neat little history tidbits in there as well. Now in the top up here, you do have the Onoto lifetime guarantee card and a registration card that apparently you're supposed to do within 30 days of purchase. So I'm well past registering my pin, but I don't think I've ever actually registered any of my pins at this point. But it does have the Onoto certificate of authenticity, showing that this is a true limited edition of the Winston Churchill. So if I had ever planned on selling this would be really important to have with it, since it has the numbered, the number 212 in silver on the bottom of the pin. It also has the matching certificate of authenticity to match with it. So let me get that back in there. And then this is what I think is the coolest of all the little accompanying things. This is a facsimile of Churchill's handwriting with an Onoto pen, that he wrote. It's the form factor of the letter, and you can see how the ink would have been written, how you'd see through, which would be, period correct for letters of that time. I'm sure people at that point could read this a lot easier with the see-through and the handwriting, but you see that is a pretty wide line that would have been set down on there. But that's just neat to see that historic handwriting with a pen like this, to see how this was just a normal pen, for someone at this time and era. So, to have the signatures and the notes and all of that, I think that's one of the coolest little accompanying features of this entire set, honestly. Just to, see the actual writing itself. But then that would go back in there. So a little bit, and just also the wood box. I mean, that's a really nice package. It's got felt on the bottom. It's got actual wood with real hinges inset. So a really nice presentation. This is a box that if I had a better place to display it, I think I would leave this sitting out more. But in my current office at my house setup, I don't really have a place for that. But let me get that aside and get back more to the pen. So like I said, the pen does have the really beautiful pinstriping, and that's what drew me to it. Everything when I was a kid was blue. That was the color of like my room and all that kind of stuff. And then black, I've since gone to more of the pelican stripesman, the blacks and grays. But something about the look of this pen it caught me. And this is what I was talking about. The little maker's mark is engraved on the silver there. Now, I probably should try and polish this up a little bit, because the silver, it's not tarnished, but it's starting to get to where it wants to. But you do see on the clip, it's got Onoto, and it's a decent clip. Not that this is a pin you'd really be clipping on a pocket or something like that, but it is good to know that it's there. But this is a standard cartridge converter. So, like you'd expect, and it currently does have a converter in it. Haven't filled this in a while. I'm going to fill it up and try and use it some before the pin show in March, just to make sure. I do want to have it ground. This is one of those pins I bought when I was new. It was a fancy pin. I had saved up over the year to get it. And then, as part of the pin hobby, you keep getting new pins, and then some of your other pins kind of fall back to the wayside. And that happened to this one a little bit. One, because when I first started with pins, I wasn't going to take a really nice pin like this outside of my house. This was used inside my house, and I didn't do that much writing inside my house when I first started in the hobby. So things have changed. I've come to the realization that if I'm going to buy it, I need to use it. I need to use it wherever, and I need to use it frequently. So that's been a big change in this kind of round 2 of my pin hobby of use what I have. Don't hesitate to get new things, but use what you have as well. So, overall, beautiful pin, special edition. Just the colors. And some of it doesn't show up on camera as well. Seeing just the way the blues and blacks intertrace on the pin stripes it's a gorgeous pin. And Onoto is a brand that you don't hear about all that often. I believe Vanessa still carries a couple of models, but it's one of those smaller pin makers, and that's the other thing that kind of drew me to it. I like having, my Pilot 823 or my Pelicans, but there's something about a smaller maker that especially has history like this that really gives a different perspective. So I will go on and fill this up, and I'll do a quick little writing sample with it, since I was going to be doing that anyway, but I will be back with some ink here in a moment. Okay, so I did go with a kind of a safer ink because of the nature of the pen. I just went with Pelican 4001 Royal Blue, kind of a traditional safe ink. This is not a pen that will ever have any kind of sheen or shimmer in it, just because I don't use all that often, especially not in a pen like this. Now, it will post. But because of the design, I don't really post this. It's big enough for me to write comfortably without it posted, and it doesn't feel, crazy light or off balance. But I don't want to risk, leaving a mark. The cap is, the internal threads. There's space because of the taper where it's kind of meant to sit in, but I've gotten to where I don't post many of my pins anymore. So this is the Onoto Winston Churchill Pinstripe. Pelican 4001 Blue. And this is a fine nib currently. And with this being gold, it actually does have a little bit of flex, and I guess I should put this here. Number 212. So there is a little bit of flex in this, not that my writing normally needs that, but I mean, you can see some variation, and you can see the tines spread if you're doing, So this is one of my few nibs that actually has a little bit of flex, but in normal writing, you're not seeing it. Writes good in all directions. And this is, this is a drier ink, so it's not an overly wet pen either, but, it dries. And this is one, sorry, I didn't mention earlier, this is the Nimacine paper that I've used in my past couple videos, so I kind of have a consistent, way to show these various pens. But it feels great. Since I haven't used this in a while, just writing with it, I'll probably use this for some journaling or something later today, just to kind of put it through its paces, because I'm actually able to write a little bit broader than I normally do with this, but it's not as bad as I remember. I used to think, oh gosh, this is way too broad, I could never write with that. And that does not seem to be the case. So, that is my number 212 limited edition Onoto Winston Churchill Pinstripe edition. Okay, so that's going to wrap up my look at my limited edition Onoto Churchill edition fountain pen. I'm curious though, leave a comment below. Do you have any special edition pens that you wanted to get just for the look and you might not use them as much like I was doing? Or have you come to the realization that you might as well use the pens if you have them, so you use them as if you would any other pen? Leave a comment, let me know how you kind of handle that. And also, if you have any limited edition pens that you are on your grail pen list that you want to own someday, leave that in the comments as well. If you're new, consider subscribing so you can see new videos as they're released, and thanks for watching.